Hello, welcome to Top Stories today. Members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union have begun a nationwide strike today, Monday, over alleged unfair treatment and disparity in the payment of salaries by the federal government. On the foreign scene, Vladimir Putin wins a fifth term as Russian president by a landslide of 87%, according to Russian exit polls. Anthony Joshua has climbed up Ring magazine's rankings after his devastating victory over Francis Ngannou. Welcome to News Hour today on TV Sapienza with me, Choma Victor Mekana, the news in full. Members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union have begun a nationwide strike today, Monday, over alleged unfair treatment and disparity in the payment of salaries by the federal government. Last Monday, the unions threatened to shut down hostels and power supply in universities across the country if the federal government fails to meet its demands before today, March 18, 2023. National President of SANU, Mohammed Ibrahim, said his members, including vice-chancellors, registrars and bursars, have not been paid 2022 arrears. Meanwhile, the Minister for Education, Professor Tahir Maman, said that he was unaware of SANU and NASU's planned strike. The SANU president stressed that no government representative has reached out to the non-academic unions, noting that although some have reached out unofficially, but the assurances cannot be taken to the bank. We are following up on the story and we'll keep updating you. Moving things along, the Nigerian Army has expressed concern about the inadequate power supply in the Ikeja military cantonment, Lagos. This is as the federal government allocated 12.7 billion naira for the mass metering project in all army formations. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu spoke during the flag-off of the metering exercise at the headquarters of the 9th Brigade of the Nigerian Army Ikeja military cantonment at the weekend. According to a statement made available to newsmen yesterday, Sunday, by his media aide, Bolaji Tunji, Adelabu explained that for the current exercise, the sum of 12.7 billion naira has been released out of a total of 40 billion naira for the mass metering project. Adelabu stated that the current exercise will last for 6 weeks, after which the second phase would commence. Away from Army, the National Judicial Council has raised the alarm over repeated attempts by some fraudsters to defraud retired judicial officers of their pensions. The council claimed that the fraudsters had been bombarding retired judges with phone calls, demanding various sums of money to help them fast-track the payment of their retirement benefits. In a statement yesterday, Sunday, the NJC Director of Information, Shoji Oye, distanced the council from the actions of the alleged fraudsters and urged retired judicial officers to be wary so as not to fall victim of these unscrupulous elements. The Nigerian Customs Service has reopened the international border in Kamba Town, Dandi local government area of Kebbi State, for the resumption of cross-border to promote international trading between Nigeria and the neighboring Niger and the Benin republics. The federal government had last week announced the decision to reopen the nation's border with the Benin Republic after a 7-month closure. The decision followed the lifting of the ban imposed on Niger Republic by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, following the takeover of power by the military in the country. The spokesperson for the KB Area Command of the NCS, Mohammed Tajuddin Salisu, disclosed this in a statement made available to newsmen yesterday, Sunday. We take a break right now. When we return, the Anambra State Governor, Professor Soludo, has expressed his commitment to transform Anambra State into a model state in Nigeria and Africa. These and other stories will come your way after this time out. Please do stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Glad to have you here with us. In Anambra State, the Governor, Professor Soludo, has expressed his commitment to transforming Anambra into a state that's a model state in Nigeria and Africa. Governor Soludo was speaking while outlining the various achievements of his administration in the past 2 years during an event to mark the day at the International Convention Center, Oka, presenting his administration's 2-year scorecard. Governor Soludo, who was accompanied to the event by his wife, Mrs. Nonye Soludo, and the Deputy Governor, Dr. Onyeka Chukwuibezim, stressed that Anambra is strong, stating that his administration has an agenda with a deadline of which there are no excuses, pointing out that in the last 2 years he has succeeded in laying the foundation for Anambra to become a smart megacity in spite of the dearth of resources compared to the availability of resources in past years, while retreating that his government is changing gear this year Governor Soludo noted that his government is deliberately executing the most austere government ever, focusing on what is most important for the people and assured to continue to give priority to those who are neglected. The governor outlined the various achievements of his administration in the past 2 years, including the flag off of over 400 kilometers of road, declaration of free education, free antenatal care and delivery services, ongoing Anambra State-wide water scheme, among others. While congratulating the governor, the former Commonwealth Secretary General, Chief Emeka Ayoko, highlighted what he called evidential achievement of his administration since he assumed office 2 years ago. Still in Anambra State, Governor Soludo says the old Rangers players need to be celebrated for making the country proud. Governor Soludo stated this when some of the players paid him a courtesy visit at the Governor's Lodge, Amobia. Governor Soludo described Rangers as part of the Nigerian identity, the pride of the people who galvanized and lifted the triumphant spirit of the people after the Civil War. He equally promised to help with their medicals at the Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Chukwu University Teaching Hospital, Amakuoka, free of cost, and reiterated that apart from receiving government assistance, the private sector and their respective communities can also help to ensure that such people who are beacons of hope for the next generation are not forgotten. While stressing the need for the governors of the Southeast to seek ways of encouraging them, Governor Soludo emphasized that the living must be celebrated, ensuring them that the nation, especially the East Central State, will never forget their efforts. Earlier, the former Commissioner for Information, Chief Joe Martins Uzodike, who led the players, traced the history of Rangers immediately after the Civil War, stating that they were the pride of the East Central State. The group expressed love and support for the governor, praying that his second-term bid will see the light of the day. Away from that, Vladimir Putin wins a fifth term as Russian president by a landslide of 87%, according to Russian exit polls. He faced no credible opposition candidate as the Kremlin tightly controls Russia's political system, media and elections. Germany called it a pseudo-election, while the US said the vote was obviously not free nor fair. Ukraine's President Zelensky said Putin was drunk with power and is doing everything to rule forever. In a post-election news conference, Putin vowed to press on with the invasion of Ukraine. He also said Russian democracy was more legitimate than in the US, where with mail-in voting, you can buy a vote for $10, according to Putin. Voting took place in the Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. Overall turnout was 77%. Away from Russia, the Israel Defense Forces launched an overnight raid on Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City with reports of tanks and heavy gunfire. The IDF says it's now in control of the hospital and says Hamas was using the site to launch attacks. Hundreds of displaced Palestinians are sheltering at the hospital, which was raided by Israeli forces earlier in the conflict. The IDF calls on people in the hospital and surrounding areas to evacuate to a nearby humanitarian area. A doctor at the hospital tells International News his team began hearing gunfire in the early hours. According to him, anyone in the grounds were targeted, he says. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza accuses Israel of a war crime and using fabricated narratives. Israel launched its campaign in Gaza after Hamas killed about 1,200 people in southern Israel on 7th of October and took 253 others hostage. Gaza's health ministry says more than 31,300 people have been killed in Gaza since then. Authorities in the northern Chinese city of Handan have detained 3 teenage boys over the brutal murder of their classmate, according to local media. The case of 13-year-old boy, identified only by his surname Wang, has sparked anger and furious debate on juvenile crime. Authorities found his remains buried in an abandoned vegetable garden. The boy was bullied in school, according to his father. Police are investigating the case as an international homicide. State-run Global Times said all 3 detained teens are under 14. Under Chinese law, those above 12 years of age but under 14 can face criminal prosecution, only when allowed by the Supreme People's Procuratorate, the country's highest public prosecutor. The victim and his classmates are left behind children, a term used to describe kids in China who live with their grandparents in rural areas while their parents work in the cities. All right, away from that heartbreaking news, we move to sports right now. But before that, we'll take a break. Nigerian defender Bright Osayi Samuel, who plays for Turkish club Fenerbahce, was seen knocking a violent pitch invader to the ground. These and other stories will come to you in sports after this timeout. Stay with us. Now, welcome back. In the interesting world of sports, Nigerian defender Bright Osayi Samuel, who plays for Turkish club Fenerbahce, was seen knocking a violent pitch invader to the ground during a chaotic on-pitch brawl last night. Tension escalated at the end of Fenerbahce's 3-2 victory over Trabzonspor in the Turkish Super League. Former Manchester United player Fred netted 2 goals in the first half as Fenerbahce secured the victory with a late 87th minute goal from Michi Batshuayi. Fenerbahce players gathered in the middle of the pitch to celebrate their victory when suddenly a single fan made his way onto the pitch to taunt them. A security team swiftly apprehended the individual who was wearing a mask. As the situation unfolded, a growing number of supporters managed to bypass the security staff, causing difficulties in maintaining control. A video captured the 26-year-old Osayi Samuel in the midst of the commotion. Quite interesting. Away from that, Anthony Joshua has climbed up Ring Magazine's rankings after his devastating victory over Francis Ngannou. AJ wasted no time at all in the ring against the MMA superstar as he secured a brutal second-round knockout earlier this month. The former heavyweight champion sent his rival to the canvas in the opening round and then hit the deck again before his lights were put out with a powerful right hand. Joshua has now won 4 bouts in a row against Ngannou, Otto Wallin, Robert Helenius and Jermaine Franklin after his back-to-back defeats to Alexander Usyk. His strong recent performances have seen him climb up from 3rd to 2nd in the Ring Magazine heavyweight rankings. With that story, we wrap it up for this hour on News Hour. A quick reminder of our top stories. Members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union have begun a nationwide strike today, Monday, over alleged unfair treatment and disparity in the payment of salaries by the federal government. Vladimir Putin wins a 5th term as Russian president by a landslide of 87%, according to the Russian exit polls. Anthony Joshua has climbed up Ring Magazine's rankings after his devastating victory over Francis Ngannou. And that's it on News Hour this hour. On behalf of the entire editorial news and production team, my name is Choma Vicchukwemeka. Stay with us here on TV Sapiencia. News Hour, another news update will come your way at exactly 4 p.m. Nigerian time. In the interim, kindly be security conscious, be on the alert, whatever it is you do, ensure that you are on the right path of the law. Stay with us. Good afternoon from here.